Hello, YouTube. So I'm over in England, and I decided I wanted to do a quick little interview here, and I chose this really awesome place here. It's an old English
very
little
traditional
place.
English house.
Yes, and I have here with us Chris.
Hello.
Could you tell us about this house?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is kind of near where I live. I thought it would be a nice background actually, because this house was built before the first doomsday predictions of the Jehovah's Witnesses, so it's quite old. I love this house. It's built in 1390?
1390.
So, yeah, one of my favourite houses. It's unfortunately not my house though. But yeah, we thought we'd do a little interview because we've had quite a good weekend, haven't we?
Yes, it was great. I'm really looking forward to the next one too. So I think we had a lot of good experiences.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
some shit ones, but mostly good. And
yeah.
So it was
more. I don't remember too many shit
well,
ones.
Well, I guess I had one guy
good.
that was kind of like gave me attitude and stuff. I mean, that's to be expected. He was a sympathizer, but we had really good responses from a lot of PMOs, physically and mentally out. So.
Yeah, I think some of them really needed documenting. So to give you a bit of an idea of why I've suddenly jumped into one of Stacey's videos. Well, you're waving.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can see me.
Okay. Hello. So the reason I've appeared in this video is mainly because I'm one of the organisers of the London protest at the London XL convention, and yeah, we're going really dark. Sorry, everybody, keep disappearing. But you can look at the beautiful house instead of my face. So I organised the protest, and the reason I protest isn't because I don't think people should have their own belief systems or that the Jehovah's Witnesses have any issue with the Bible, because I'm not interested in the Bible. I'm an atheist. My concern is obviously with the policies of the Jehovah's Witnesses, but also the good camera work.
Please continue. Yeah.
It's not distracting at all.
No.
I have a problem with the policies. The shunning, particularly, especially when you have a convention called Love Never Fails, when it does. But one thing that motivated me was when I was young, I was at a convention and I didn't want to be at the convention. I didn't know what I wanted. I believed in Jehovah and all the rest of it, but I wasn't very happy. I was so unhappy that, I kind of decided that I'd rather try and live a life outside of the organisation if I have to, because I wasn't really living a life in there. And I've been hoping that our message will get through to some people who are, particularly young people, doesn't matter what age though, who are in there and only forced to be in there because they don't want to be shunned by their families. I want to give those people someone to talk to, and just a bit of encouragement, and tell them that there is life out here. We're all having fun. There's beautiful things. There's paradise. I mean, we live everything in the Paradise book we see here right now. So that's kind of my motivation.
Yeah, that's a really good motivation, especially nowadays, because the JWs have very ease of access to information. They have zero excuse not to check out what we're talking about, to fact check it. So a lot of them are, I find that most of the JWs are either extremely brainwashed and just they're the really nasty, kind of cold, they've been stripped of their human compassion, empty shells, and then the other half are just terrified to lose their loved ones, so they're staying in and just trying to figure out, I don't know what to do, and they're just going through the motions. They hate their wives, the children, they don't know that there's support out there, so it's it's a really good thing to kind of keep in mind those ones, and it's good to assume that every JW you come across is one person who's dying to get out. Of course, we're always, we've got like a rude awakening some days whenever they show their rear their fangs. But a lot of times we hear experiences where people, come out of the organization. They say, yeah, we saw apostates or we saw protesters, and they were so nice, and they told us, what was it? One of the signs said, "We're your brothers too," or something. That was awesome.
It's funny you should say that, actually, because immediately after the convention, I actually had a message sent through to me from a friend who had seen on Twitter there were witnesses inside who were really happy to see us doing what we're doing. They were kind of jovial about it because they were really excited that people are paying attention to them, because these guys don't really want to be in there. At least they don't want the organisation to be run the way it is. And I would say that I don't think I had a negative experience personally the whole weekend. Me and Stacey actually, we tried to get on film a little incident while we were walking around in the centre of London. Unfortunately, the footage didn't really come out very well, and there was a lot going on because it was a very busy tourist place. But we were walking past Westminster, and we saw a cart. And Stacey, being Stacey, can't walk past those, so she has to stop.
I mean, I can't walk without stopping.
It's very, very busy.
Yeah.
So we stopped, and it was interesting actually because it's such a busy street, we couldn't take up much space. So Stacey stopped and talked to a young lady there, and I talked to a gentleman who was an elder. And we had a fascinating experience. And the funny thing is, we both had separate, very interesting experiences. Trying to fix the lighting issues.
No, go ahead.
We're outside under some trees. Why don't you say some of the things you can say about your experience? Because I know we don't want to let on too much, because both of our conversations, we built a very good rapport with these witnesses, and I'm quite... when I talk to them, if I've built a trust with them, I wouldn't want to betray that trust on a video. So some of the things I would say when relaying this would be just highlights and snippets without giving too many personal details away. But because I know the story you had from this lady was a very personal story, because there was a situation where somebody she knows had been abused, and it was quite an amazing experience really, because she knew you were apostate, and well, I didn't hear what was being said at the time, so I was talking to the other one, but I saw her hug you. So
I gave her. Well, I asked her for a hug because, I was talking to this lady, just kind of went all in after talking to her for a minute, and told her, look, I'm here to, spread awareness about some policies that need changing, and just kind of going through everything that we always talk about, the child sex abuse, class action lawsuits, the shunning, and she did do like the typical, every organization needs to protect their kids, like other churches and stuff. And I said, yes, I agree, but if you believe this is God's organization, you wouldn't think this would be happening in here. And so she actually gave me
comparing it, wasn't it? Because you compare it to other organizations, but that was where you were very smart, because they're not God's organisation, though, are they? So
right, yeah, because they are supposed to be no part of the world. So, but this lady was very nice. Listened to me. She did say that her personally and her daughter were affected by child sex abuse, and so that made me not want to upload any video with her voice or her story or anything. And so I'm glad I didn't live stream. I didn't have any service anyways. But the thing about it was tough with her, because she says, well, she went through that, but her daughter's still a JW. So it was kind of like she was saying, well, it can happen, because I said, most children who grow up, especially if they've been abused, they don't want to stay a JW, or a lot of them don't. And then they get shunned by their family. So she told me, well, hers, her story, but her daughter is not. And I said, that's great that you still have that relationship with her. And just compared, said there's a lot of people who don't, and so we just want to stop.
I think it's quite effective, that approach, actually, because what you'll find is we're not telling them what to think. We're not telling them what our views are. We're helping them come to their own conclusion that something's not right.
Yeah.
They're more likely to think logically about what's happened, and to get an outside perspective, because I noticed with both of us actually, but we did a very similar approach, even though we were separately at the same two carts. My approach was to go up, and I actually took an invite from the cart for the convention. I'm going anyway. I'm just not going in, because next weekend we've got another one at the XL in London. So if anyone wants to come down on Saturday, we're going to meet around 10:30 on the western terrace of the XL. Come along, come meet me, come and meet Stacey, come and meet a few of the other people that you may or may not have heard of that come to these things. But you know what? To me, it was great, because we meet all of our friends and we make new friends, and it's such a lovely environment.
Yeah, it really is.
But the main thing I was going to say then is that with my cart crash, I started just seeming like an interested person, or somebody who's inquisitive, And
Yeah.
as he went on, he was saying, well, he wants to get some scripture and say what the witnesses do. And I said, well, actually, I do know about JW.org. I go on there quite a lot, actually. And I said to them that some people in my family are Jehovah's Witnesses. And he's like, oh, really? Great, fantastic. So as the conversation went on, he learned that actually I was as well when I was younger. And gradually through the conversation, we gradually stepped it up to the point where he started to know that I know an awful lot about it and I know about the policies. The point I was pushing to him really is that I actually love Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm a nice guy. By now I've already shaken his hand. We've got a name. Wonderful guy. Really liked him. I wanted him to know that I really liked him too. But what I didn't like is the way that the governing body has these policies that are very harmful. And I helped him understand the impact that they have and how people are committing suicide due to the shunning rules without it being confrontational. But what I didn't expect was to get to the point where I said to him, are you going to this convention next weekend? And he said no, because I was there yesterday. This was the day after the convention. And I said, oh, that's great, because actually so was I. And it surprised him. And I said, well, I was actually the person who organised the protest that was outside your convention. And he was like, oh, I see. And by now he's already told me that I'm a good guy, I'm caring, I'm looking after people. So we've already got past any barriers, and I've never had that happen. By now it's normally an end conversation. Really lovely guy. So I doubt he'd ever see this video, but it was nice to meet you. I do know your name. I'm not going to say it online now out of respect. Really good guy. And to have somebody who is an elder, who's gone to a convention, he's seen a protest outside and ignored it on the day, to then find the organiser, know that it's the organiser, and then shake my hand again and thank me for what I do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, that's chokes me up.
Yeah.
Amazing. No, it's not the praise to me though. I mean, it's just that over time we've experimented with different approaches. Stacey has just said, she's glad she didn't live stream it, because this was the time that you're speaking to somebody who has been affected by abuse. Usually it's people that don't know about
and
abuse.
she gave me the time. This was very unique to me because she even thanked me for sharing my views. That blew my mind, because towards the end she did start kind of backing away. She was still being friendly, but that's usually when I know, okay, she's about to shut down. I want to end it while it's still friendly. But she said, I thank you for sharing your feelings on the matter, and and of course I told her, that I was very sorry for what she had went through, and then just expressed like, this is why I do this, because there's some families that don't get that continued relationship, even afterwards, and that.
It's quite common here, actually, in the UK, for the witnesses to act a lot more accommodating to what we're saying. I don't know whether it's an English etiquette thing.
It might be, because online I've noticed that too. That English or at least kind of British JWs tend to. They will, like, online they're more aggressive, but they'll argue with you a little bit more before blocking you, and then Americans will shut down instantly. They just unblock you or leave groups, and it's really hard to get through to American JWs. So
there is a slight difference, and I do think some of that might be because you're American and she finds you interesting.
Okay, I've heard that.
But the reason I say that is where you were, because this happened right outside the Houses of Parliament in London. So for people who maybe aren't from England, that's basically where our government is run from. So the Prime Minister and all the MPs, they sit in Parliament. So the JWs who do that patch are probably the ones who are better at talking to different people from different countries, and they want to be the showcase. So I guess the similar thing would be if you had JWs outside the White House. So if you went to speak to them there, would you find they'll be more accommodating, because they're basically the showcase for the witnesses to people visiting a massive tourist hotspot. So there are factors here. So I'm not expecting this approach to work every time, but I do think that if you are considering talking to the witnesses, my approach, especially as a protest organiser, is always founded around respect. I don't ever want somebody to stop believing in God or having a hope for the future because of something I've said. But what I do want them to do is report child abuse to the police. I want them to reach out for help when they need that help. going to do a shameless plug again, if you don't mind.
No, do it, please.
So
I would have done it anyways.
You may have seen in Stacey's last live stream from the protest, I jumped in there, it's me again, just to mention JW Support Foundation, which is basically another website that some people I know have set up and I'm a massive fan of. It's basically a help button for somebody who's in desperate need of help. We are going to be expanding on the website, it's still very new. So one thing I think Stacey's thinking of doing is trying to find localized help for people across the United States, because obviously state by state you would have different helplines for mental health support. Over in England, I don't know what we have there. We have what we call the Samaritans. You can contact them. They're basically a helpline for people who suffer with depression, maybe they're suicidal. So we're just trying to get on there. So JW Support Foundation will help people get that help. It will also help them contact ex-JWs if they are lonely, looking for someone to talk to after they've just left the organisation. So anything they want, they can contact us. So can you guys. There is a contact form if you wanted to go onto the JW Support Foundation website or the Facebook page. Feel free to drop any messages, any tips, anything about the website you think might need an improvement. As I say, it's brand new and we are willing to put quite a bit of time and effort into making this quite a good tool and a good source for the witnesses. So it's something I'm quite passionate about, and hopefully we can do some good.
Sounds great. Yes, and we are wanting to kind of incorporate a JW Support Foundation into like Vast Apostate Army. VastApostateArmy.com is very heavily with activism, which is awesome. And then I really what I appreciate about JW Foundation Support Foundation is also it's kind of a little more gentle avenue into that. Because you
do need different things for different people.
Right, exactly. So that's what we're looking for. So.
Vast Apostate Army, it's been a great resource for many years. I would say from where I am and what I do, the VAA is a really good source of information for people who've already left, particularly, and it is great for encouraging people to just have that little bit of courage and go and speak to those witnesses.
That's awesome.
We're not going to go up to them and all be brash and attack them as they might see it. Just go and talk to them, say hello. And it encourages people to say, you know what, actually, no, we're not doing harm. We're not trying to upset anybody. And JW Protest, the organisation that I'm affiliated with, that's what it's all about. Just saying, hey, look, we don't hate you. We don't want to stop you doing what you're doing. We just want to stop you doing it wrong.
Yeah. And you hear a lot of accounts of ex-JWs who had encounters with apostates during their JW years, and when it's something positive like that, it really stays with them, and they will talk about it when they get out. Like I have a really good friend in Scotland that I visited, and when she was 10 years old, she saw an activist outside a convention saying, "Read the Bible, not the Watchtower," and she had all these questions, and it stuck with her. And so, it's just little things like that. Even the kids seeing our behavior, whether it be at carts in Kingdom Halls, outside of conventions, that's going to stick with them, and that's going to probably be a big factor in how they get out and how they act when they get out and how they come find us. So that's the biggest thing. Is just to find us, find the community that they can, relate to. And
I think you're right there. Any little thing you say, make sure it's a good thing that you're saying. Is basically what my angle is, because like Stacey just said, these things do stick with people, and they might get home. It might even be a year later they suddenly think, that's reminding me of that apostate. That's what they were saying. That's the whole point. I had another experience actually at the protest where I saw a young gentleman come out, and it was during the sessions, and he stood out to me for a couple of reasons. There was a couple of things about his dress that made me think that he's not what they would call strong in the truth, or a horrible way to say it. I don't usually use that term. And he looked really down. He looked like he was struggling. So I approached him. Part of the terms of my protest are that we don't actually go and approach the witnesses. We wait for them to approach us. But this was a slightly different situation, because he actually went off of the venue and he was standing with his arms on a railing, and he just looked really down. So, I actually left all my protest banners, and I had nothing on me that would identify me as an apostate as such.
Oh, you were wearing VA shirt.
Or other than subtle VAA shirt, I'll give you that. I walked past him to see if he'd make eye contact with me, because, like I say, I don't really like to approach them at their convention. I don't think it's fair. They're not there for us. We're there if they want us to help them. And I just saw him looking out the corner of his eye at me, and I said, "Hello, mate. How you doing? How's your day going?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm all right, And he said, "Oh, are you with that lot?" Pointing at the protest. And I said, "I am." And I said, "Are you with that lot?" Pointing at the venue. And he went, "Yeah, I am." And I said, "Yeah, it's confusing, isn't it?" And just that word, confusing, meant he understood exactly what he was going through, because he was confused by what to do. And I could see it through him. I knew, because when I was younger, I suffered with anxiety and depression, and I've seen it, I've been around it a lot. I can see the signs. So I knew exactly what was going on with this young lad, and he just reminded me of me. And we spoke for maybe half an hour nearly about everything. And the interesting thing is, this was before the lunchtime sessions. As the witnesses started to come out, I said to him, "Well, I'll leave you to it, because I don't want you to be seen talking to me." And he actually stopped me from leaving and carried on talking to me. And I made a little friend that day. But the one real point I wanted him to understand is that all of the hurt, if he leaves and he gets shunned, he's got to remember who's causing that hurt. And I told him, no matter what happens, no matter what you lose, you're going to have a hard time either way. If you leave, you're going to have a hard time. If you stay, you're going to have a hard time. So it's not an easy thing, because life just isn't easy. But if he does leave, I pointed over to our protest and I said, all of those people love you, and they are all your friends, but you just haven't met them yet. And this kid, we got on so well, and we even had similar music taste. I could just tell from a few of the things about his dress. And I said he actually said to him, an interesting point was, he didn't want to really live in paradise. It didn't appeal to him, just the imagery of it. And I said, well, that's true, and your music's not going to be there either, because mine isn't. I'm into rock and roll and that,
Devil's music.
But what I did point out to him is, in all the literature, you can open up any of the magazines, any of the Paradise books, any of the brochures, you'll see beautiful imagery. You'll see mountains and trees and waterfalls and lakes and all the animals. And then another thing they love to point out is people from different parts of the world, different nationalities, all getting on in harmony. And I said to him, that's here now. Everything in all of those images is something you have here on Earth right now. And there's nothing in any of them that we don't understand, because we don't know what they are. It's all here now. The only problem is he's not enjoying it, because he's sitting in the XL listening to a guy drone on about things he's not particularly enthusiastic about. Yeah. And I think that's a more powerful message to a witness than us going up to them and saying, this scripture says this, and it's not right because this scripture says
you're
that.
a cult, you're a doomsday cult, which I do like to say, but
well, it's true.
Yeah, it's true. But
it's
you
harsh.
In some of these, this case, this is really amazing. It just makes me tear up, really.
Yeah.
Because we want to tell them, look, we are
I did choke
here for you. Just like a positive message.
Yeah. But when you go into those kind of messages, sorry to interrupt there, can I just make sure that everybody, when they go into these kind of discussions, if you're going to go for an emotional discussion with a JW, please make sure you've got some kind of resource to give them, because this kid, I've actually given him an email address that he can get hold of me if he wants to talk to me, and he actually, because he lives in London, I can actually get to London quite easily within an hour, so if he ever wants to see me, I'm happy to come up to London and have coffee. I'd like to think he's spotted your video, actually, Stacey, because I did name drop your channel.
Wow.
I gave him a few resources that he might like to look at. So I do remember your name. I'm not going to say it, but if you are watching, contact me at JW Protest or any of the other information I've given to you. But guys, do talk to them, but just go in with maybe a thought in mind. It's a bit like when you were witnesses, if you were. Have just a few thoughts that you might want to talk about, and hi guys. And just make sure you've got something you can give them as a resource, just to make sure they can get help if they want, because I do find that most of the time they never really tell you the true details. They'll keep things to themselves. It's quite unique that you had a lady who was willing to open up.
That was very unique. And then and to to give me, yeah. Well, I asked if I could hug her, and she said yes, and
Yeah.
she, she was very, very nice to me, and that was very special.
Well, we're not the evil apostates that they're
Yeah.
told we are, and I think that's a really important thing. No matter what, if it gets heated, because with me, whenever I kart crash, I know you guys haven't seen it because I tend not to film it. My main reason for not filming is because I try to do it by building up a trust, and I don't want to betray that trust.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that you shouldn't film it. Please do. I'm cautious of live streams, if I'm honest, because you just don't know what you're going to get. But if they're aggressive and hostile, I tend to just walk away. If they're not interested in doing a good, honourable thing, because that's what our messages are about. We're trying to protect people.
The British and the American are very different, though.
They are.
Yeah.
You're badass.
I will keep. If they start getting like that with me, I don't give them what they want by walking away. I'll just let them make fools of themselves, record it, and then I'll show you guys. So. Yeah.
You keep doing that because this is why I love this girl. Because it's great. I love this channel. I'm a big fan. I've been a fan for years, and that's kind of how we've met, isn't it? Because we do things a little differently over here. Why don't you come over and have a look?
Yeah, they're so kind here. Everybody's like, I hate you, but have some tea.
Well, there was an incident, and I'm sorry to the guys who watch this who know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to drop names or give details, but we did actually have a peculiar clash of personalities within two of the protesters. Both lovely guys, both got their own thing going on. They do have different political views, I'll just say. But the funny thing that Stacey didn't realise is that we had two people that really clash. I mean, they really don't want to talk to each other. They don't want to be. One of them nearly went home halfway through the day. And I said, well, look, I need you here. I want you to stay here. So we had a little chat, and as he came back over, I was thinking, are these guys going to hit each other? They're really angry with each other. And they walked up to each other and they just said, well, look, we'll have to disagree. And they shook hands and walked away. And Stacey couldn't believe it. She's like, they just shook hands. It's like, yes, because that's English. Something disagreement.
Back home, they'd be, slugging each other. But that's very admirable. So
we'll do that. So we're the type to move on. But different cultures, different places, same approach, same message. We're there to help you guys. We're there to help the witnesses, and we're helping anyone who has come out and is still struggling. If you need a friend or a YouTuber to follow, then go for it.
Awesome.
Anyway.
All right. You good?
So should we go back to our historic village of old, I think we need to go to the pub, Stace.
Okay. All right. Yes, sounds good.
Thanks for letting me on
your
your
channel.
Thank y'all
for listening. Thank y'all for watching. Comment and toodaloo. You don't say toodaloo. Cheers.
Farewell.
Cheers.
I prefer farewell.
But I say howdy and love y'all. Farewell.